After a pause created by the pandemic, the producers of the outdoor drama Tecumseh are ready to take the stage again. Mike Smith and I visit with Scioto Society's Brandon Smith right after this. Getting ready for a season after not having a season. This has got to be a good feeling.
It's really good. About 10 days ago, we turned the lights on up there for the first time and the sound, and it was surprisingly emotional for me and I think everybody else there, just to see. There weren't even any actors on stage yet. So yeah, it's been a great feeling. It's going well. We have a very small cast this year as compared to other years, and I was a little concerned about how that would look on the stage, but through the rehearsals, I can't tell that there's any fewer people, so Brent has done a great job at staging people throughout to make it look full. Donald Leffert, our production designer, did a great job with the lights to darken places where there aren't people and light places where there are. We did a little creative planting this year to fill in the stage and a lot of other things, so I'm really pleased with where we are. I think it's going to be a good show.
One of the things about the smaller cast, it presents an intimacy, but you had probably the largest cast you ever had in 2019.
In 2019, we had the largest cast we'd had since I'd been back, for sure. Way back in the early to mid 70s, even up into the 80s, there were 100 people in the cast back then. So didn't approach those numbers, but 65 to 70 people that we had in 2019, and so we have learned to do it both with more people than we're used to, and now with less. Yeah.
1 year off, there's going to be things you have to look at with infrastructure, but 2 years off, did you find problems that you don't usually have after only being everything shut down for 1 year?
Yes, but not as much as I was anticipating. I really thought when we came back up here and turned water on and all of that we were going to have a real problem on our hands, and really we didn't. Most of the capital improvements that we made this year were things that had been on the schedule already. New parking lot lights to light the parking lot up better. We put a new roof on part of the stage this past summer, which needed to be done pretty badly. So most of the unexpected expenses were in PPE equipment and other things like that to help us meet the guidelines and the standards that we needed to meet in order to put the show on this year. Initially, we thought we'd be at 30% capacity. I didn't see that changing this summer, at least not early enough to make a difference for us. As we looked at the numbers and how they were fluctuating and what the governor had put out for guidelines to open things up, I didn't think anything would happen until maybe August or mid-July perhaps. A week into mandates having been dropped, which means that we were able to rehearse under easier conditions. And it also means that we'll be able to open up more tickets. So we've gone from 30% to about 60%. We've essentially dropped all of the guidelines that we had for the public out here. With one exception, we're still going to ask people to wear a mask in the gift shop. It gets so tight in there. We probably should have been asking people to wear masks in there for years, probably. But essentially, we're operating in a very normal kind of situation. And as the summer goes on, we'll look about opening up more seats to get up, close at least to 100%. We just weren't comfortable doing that right off the bat because we only hired a staff to be able to handle so many people. So we'll do it incrementally. And also earlier, we're not going to be able to use volunteers. We can now. So, during those busy weekends in July and August, we probably will open up more seats. Normally this time of year, we have somewhere between $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 in advance ticket sales, which is good. We generally do about somewhere between $1.2 and $1.4 million overall in ticket sales. And most of those sales come in within 5 days of the show. So through the winter, through the fall and the spring, ticket sales are there, but it's not a huge thing until the show actually gets open. So we're at about triple that right now. So I think that means two things. The first is that people know that tickets are limited, and so they want to be sure that they make their plans and get in. And the second is people just want to get out, and I certainly understand that. So people are making their plans. They're ready to get out. And I think largely, instead of getting on airplanes and flying to cities or to Disney World, things like that, I think people are more comfortable just getting in their car and making a day trip somewhere closer to home. They can do that with the whole family. They don't have to go through the rigors of being in an airport, which are not great in any time and are even more difficult right now. So I think that speaks well to what we should expect to see this summer. And people can get tickets by going on the website, tecumsehdrama.com, or we're in this box office, which actually opened yesterday. So the phones are open now at 775-0700, or you can actually come out here and buy a ticket.
What kind of expectations should the viewers have when they come?
Yeah, so, as far as the script goes, anytime we make changes in the show, which happen incrementally every year, some changes happen, but the script has really stayed true to what Alan Eckert wrote back in the early 70s, and so that's true this year as well. So the script itself has not changed, but the way in which we produce that script has certainly changed. And we made a large investment in the technology of the show this year. So lights, sound systems, costumes, pyro, all of that stuff has had probably the biggest upgrades they've had since 1997, 1998, when they built the new stages. So we made a big investment in LED lighting this year, which we'd been looking at for a long time. Number one, they last longer. They're easier to maneuver. So, as we talk about putting lights way up in the rafters and things like that, those old lights are heavy and they're hard to get up there. These lights are really easy to move around. They live longer. You don't have to replace the lamps in them. They're also smart lights. So the light designer, as he was working on them, could make a spot on the stage that big, or he could fill the entire stage with that single light. They also change color. They don't move, but they do everything else. And so that really changed what we're able to do as far as the light design is concerned. And so we bought quite a few of those this year. We're probably going to make an investment again next year and buy more of those. And eventually, those old lights will just be completely phased out. Same thing with sound systems and costumes and pyrotechnics. A lot of the technology and black powder weaponry doesn't really change, but the instruments with which it goes through does. And so we made an investment in some of those as well. So that's where the big changes in the show are. A lot of staging changes. So, if you see the show every year and you know that Act 2, Scene 7 always starts from over here, it might not this year. And so the way in which we need to fill the stage with action was different because of the reduced number, which means that the way that it was staged was affected by that as well.
Visitor experience outside of the show itself. Any changes there, or will you still be able to have dinner, backstage tours?
There are a lot of changes there, and most of that came from preparing to be operating, amidst COVID. And some of those things we moved back to a more normal operation, but some of it was just too late for us to be able to change. So the backstage tours are going to be very different this year. Instead of having a specific time that you go, it's a rolling tour. So starting at 3:15, you can just go out and the next group goes, and you can go with the next group. They'll roll every 15 minutes, a group will leave, and the tour will go on backstage. Also some changes in the information on the tour. We don't have a high fall in the show this year, so that whole section of the tour won't happen, but we have some other information in the tour this year. So if you haven't done the tour in a while, or if you have done it recently, it's going to be, a different experience this year. We're adding tomahawk throwing this year in the lower parking bays, so you can come early and learn how to throw a tomahawk. We've created a picnic area for people who want to bring their own picnic. And we had a great relationship with Jim Green at the prison system here in Chillicothe. And him and his team built all of those picnic tables for us, and they're gorgeous. The buffet itself will not be open. And that's actually, it kind of came out of COVID, but the reason that we can't re-implement it is because they can't get chicken, if you can believe it. Which I didn't believe until I went to Buffalo Wild Wings, and they have a big sign on the door that says we don't have any bone-in chicken wings. So, yeah, there's a chicken shortage. Who knew? The attitude in this company is just so good and so high this year. Everybody's so happy to be working. Everybody's so happy to be creating something again. And I think that the experience that they have this year will be not dissimilar from the experience that the first cast had in 1973. They really are creating something new out here and overcoming obstacles which no other company has had to overcome, which I think makes them closer and a tighter group of people. So, so happy that they're here. When people started coming onto the property, it was just like, oh my God, there's people here. And we can't wait to invite people back. Opening weekend is actually that Saturday night is... There's probably not tickets left by the time this gets out there. So that means we'll have a sellout right off the bat, which is great. And the support from the community, as always, has been high. And I just can't wait for people to get back here.